Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I know I am, even though I'm actually recording this in the middle of the night. I too have become enamored or maybe even obsessed with a recent YouTube genre that has gained ascendancy, and that genre is the I'm quitting YouTube video. These have been around for a long time, but for whatever reason, starting in like November and December, I started seeing a lot of creators making videos about how they were quitting YouTube, or they're no longer going to be making videos, or they're taking some kind of step back. They're not going to be doing YouTube in the way that they've done it for a while. And this always fascinates me because I've done YouTube for a while. It's never been my main gig or my main source of income, which is good in some ways because of some of the things I'll talk about. But what's really interesting to me, besides just I like to know why people are quitting doing this, is it's almost a response. I don't know if the algorithm read my article and is like, you obviously want to watch these videos about people quitting YouTube. But I wrote an article a while back, and I think I turned it into a video from the channel called Working for Robots. And I basically get the impression that most of the creators I've seen, I hate all those qualifications, right? Basically get the whatever, right? So the creators I see are kind of affirming to me some of the things I said in that article, which is that it's very demoralizing and dehumanizing and uncertain to work for a robot that is changing its whims, and you can't just get directions from the robot. You can't just ask the robot, what video should I make? And have it make that. It's like you have to kind of guess what video the robot would like you to make that week, and hopefully it's the right one. And if it's not, you don't get views. And if you manage to predict it correctly, then you do get views. Or sometimes you just kind of make a throwaway video and it blows up. I've had that happen a whole bunch of times where it's basically just random. That is not what most people like to do for work. People like predictability. And so YouTube is unlike any other career that I've had or I've seen, both in the creative field and in more kind of standard vocations. In the normal world, when you quit a job, you quit. Your money for the job goes away because you're no longer working for that employer, right? If you're working for somebody and then you say, well, I quit, boss. It's like, okay, your paycheck also quits with you, but it's not that way with YouTube. If I just decide to stop making videos, I still am like getting money from past videos I've made. And because that money just kind of keeps coming in and rolling in, it's kind of hard to quit. You're like, well, maybe I could, maybe I should keep making the videos because I keep making money and I don't know when the next one's going to hit. It can almost be like a gambling addiction, that people get trapped into the cycle of working for the robot with like, okay, maybe this next video is what the robot wants people to see. Maybe this next video is the one that's going to go viral. Maybe this next video is the one that's going to like break open my channel and make me enough subscribers that I can finally take a step back from the day job. The problem with taking a step back from the day job, as some of you may reckon, is that the whims of the robot change over time. And honestly, this is true of any creative profession. So if you are a musician or an artist, there's lots of peaks and valleys when it comes to making money. I experienced this as a performer back in my classical guitar days. There were seasons where I was just making money hand over fist and I didn't know what to do with it all. And then there were seasons where it was like there was no money. What really sucked was like the bad season was December. It was like Christmas. You have to buy Christmas presents for everybody, and that's always the month where you make the least amount of money as a performer. And just as a side note, the worst nights I'd ever worked, like when I was playing at restaurants for like tips. And I talked to the waiters and they actually said the same thing. Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is the worst night to work. You may have people that come into the restaurant. You may have a lot of people, but for whatever reason, they don't tip on Christmas Eve. They just don't. Like the generosity's gone. And I don't know if it's because they're not Christian or like they're broke. But whatever reason, it was like Christmas Eve, you'd show up because you needed the money desperately to like pay for all of these obligations that have to do with Christmas. But you were not going to be making your normal hourly wage. And that can be very demoralizing when it's like in June, you're making $100 an hour. And in December, you're making $30 an hour. You're like, why am I doing this? Right? It's like not worth my time to practice for this gig if I'm only making $20 or $30 an hour. But that's how it goes, right? That's how That's how things go in that. YouTube is like that, but kind of on steroids, where you really don't know what's going to hit. You don't know how much money you're going to make one month to the next. There's lots of things you can do to try to even that out. Like creators have used Patreon. Of course, I have a Patreon and a Ko-Fi, right? Creators have tried to schedule their videos. The most common one is you have like a shtick and you just hammer that shtick as much as possible in whatever genre YouTube thing you're doing. Like if your thing is HEMA, you're just going to do sword videos nonstop because that's what people are watching. You get an idea that's what people want to see from you. There's a problem with that, which is that eventually the die-off happens. And this happens to almost any channel. It can happen to the biggest channels, and it can happen to mid-sized channels, and it can happen to small channels. Mid-sized channels are the ones that get most affected by this because when you're at the mid-size, 100,000 to 500,000 subscribers, you're just in the area where like you're really capable of making a lot of money on YouTube. And by not a lot, I mean like enough to, live modestly on, let's say. You're at that area or you're approaching it to where you don't have to maybe have a full-time day job for yourself. So when that taper off happens, it's painful because it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly. Things just slowly die off. And I've seen it with my channel too. Now, I was kind of fortunate in that my channel had like a die off overnight. I think it was back in like 2019. It was like went from this many views to like 10 or 15% of those views in one day. And so reacting to that was like, it was kind of like getting fired, right? But you don't get fired quickly from YouTube. What happens is YouTube stops recommending your videos over time. The audience gets kind of maybe bored of what you're doing. They lose interest in your shtick and they just stop clicking on your videos as much, even if they stay subscribed. They don't click on your videos as much, and because they're not clicking on them as much, YouTube doesn't show them as much, which just slowly tapers your videos off until very, very few people are watching them. So channels tend to have this life. They're born, they grow up to some maximum size, and then the decay happens. They slowly die off. So as a YouTube creator, the really hard thing, I think, are these mid-sized channels where you don't know where to draw the line, and it can get scary because you set things up. I can finally quit my day job because I'm making however much money per month, and then that slowly gets cut until 6 months, a year later, you're making half of what you were the previous year, and you have run out of money, right? Like you kept wanting to turn it around. You kept working to turn it around. Maybe you're doing this full time. You're trying every trick in the book to try to get more subscribers or get your subscribers that are watching to, be more heavily monetized, like buy more things from you, to get more views, things like that. You're just working your butt off to try to turn that taper off around. But, you just lose relevancy and it tapers off. And so it's really hard with YouTube to know, like, when do I throw in the towel? Like, when do I quit? I made a video a long time ago on like when to quit, right? Because sometimes you try a thing and you're not good at it, and it's helpful to take a step back and be like, do I want to keep investing in this, or would it be better to take my time and move it somewhere else? That's a hard thing. And because it's such a slow taper, it's really hard to know like where that point is with YouTube. And I guess this is true for sort of all online content creation. Scott Kurtz, who draws the PvP comic, has been drawing that comic for more than 20 years at this point. And I don't know how his business is doing, but he has just stuck with it, right? Through thick and thin, adding projects. He's managed to do that comic for a really long time. And that's kind of an exception, because if you think about like early 2000s guys like, Homestar Runner, those guys just kind of stopped. They just stopped one day. Maybe they couldn't figure out how to make money, and they just kind of rode off into the sunset and started doing other things. And that's kind of rare. It's kind of rare for somebody in the YouTube space who's maybe a YouTube personality, maybe like one of these e-celebs, to just sort of stop being that. I've seen a few people do it, or transition to what they're doing to something that has less of this kind of emphasis on YouTube. They're doing something else, like they're working for a company. They take that experience with YouTube and they're working for a corporation for a while, something that's steadier. But when you have a normal job, it's like, okay, I'm going to quit my job delivering pizzas and do a different job. You stop making money delivering pizzas and you start making money doing something else. So it's like a really clean break. For instance, with classical guitar, right? I made this video. It's probably got a lot of views at this point. I'm like, why I quit playing classical guitar. It was a long process. I was dissatisfied playing classical guitar for a really, really long time by the time that I actually decided to quit doing that. And what made me end up quitting was I moved cities. I left Las Vegas and therefore left my opportunities to teach and to gig that with what I was familiar at that point behind. And I moved to LA, which had other opportunities. And believe me, it was tempting to want to try to rustle up some gigs and make some money in LA. In fact, I had been gigging in LA on the weekend. Like I'd been driving there to I was in a slightly long distance relationship with my wife at that point. We hadn't been married, so I was driving there to see her, and I was gigging with whatever I could get, and eventually it was just like, nah, I had to cut it off and stop doing it. And it was really hard because that was something I had done forever. It was like part of my identity. But it was a lot easier to do that than to just say, well, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop interacting with people online. I'm going to stop doing videos and things like that. It's a hard thing to step away from, but I get why people do it, especially if you are on that backside, and especially if you're a mid-sized channel. It's got to really suck to have YouTube success and then kind of watch it decay a little bit. And you want to ride off into the sunset before you are not making the money that you want to make in YouTube. And that's difficult to know where to draw that line, I think. For me, I pointed this out before, like my channel's basically on that, where does it look from you? There we go. That's right. It's mirrored, right? We're on the tail end, right? Channel grows up, I slowly gain subscribers now. It's not like when the channel like really grew. And, I keep doing it because I just enjoy making videos, right? Enjoy making videos every once in a while. It's not my main source of income. I don't really need it to be my main source of income. And if I got to a point where like I just don't feel like making videos, I can just stop and not really worry too much about it. I'm not giving up a bunch of money, right? Most of my sort of residual YouTube income comes from like what I call evergreen content, like content that continues to get views 7-8 years after I've made it, continues to make me money every single month. So I make new videos to interact with the people that are subscribed and still like my newer videos and enjoy what I have to say. If I have something new and interesting to say, like about quitting YouTube, then I will make that video. But otherwise, I don't feel like a pressure, like I have to make 2 videos a week. Like people who get into this schedule, I can totally see why you need to step away from that, because it takes what is initially like pretty creative feeling and turns it into a regimented job. And that's fine as long as you're making a lot of money. But when you're not making a lot of money, then it feels like you're not being compensated. It's all about rewards, right? So the ideal is like some good balance where you are doing something that you enjoy and you're making money doing it. So the process is enjoyable and the end is enjoyable. And some combination of those is going to lead to job satisfaction, in my opinion. Like, you're making money at it and it's fun. It's fun. Maybe you're not making a ton of money, but you're helping people, right? Like you're improving the world. It's making you a lot of money and you're improving the world, but it's hard work and you don't really enjoy it. You're still going to feel rewarded for doing it because you get to the other side. You get the paycheck. You get the people saying, thank you for helping me, right? So it's like a neurosurgeon gets paid a lot of money, saves people's lives, improves their standard of living. Like it's a very rewarding job and he makes a lot of money doing it. So neurosurgeons probably enjoy their work, even if like it's super stressful to do surgery and it's hard to stay calm because it's so precise and it's a high pressure job. That's worth it because you get all these other rewards for it. when you're doing YouTube, it can be really rewarding. Like you're getting attention from people. That's a reward. You're maybe getting money from ads or from sponsorships or something, and that's a reward. Maybe you're selling products, selling books or something, and that's a reward. But then when the reward goes away, all of a sudden, maybe you didn't enjoy editing. It becomes extra annoying to do editing. Maybe you didn't enjoy doing you're not interested in doing the content that people are watching your channel for. Then it becomes extra annoying to do it. I was at that place with like movie reviews, where it's like, I don't enjoy going to the movies. I just don't. I haven't enjoyed it for a long time. It's really stressful. It costs money. I have to leave my family behind for hours to go see the movies that I feel like will get views. And as the views of those reviews kind of tapered off, I got to be able to say like, all right, I'm just not going to do those anymore. Like I don't care about movies. Movies don't fit into my lifestyle really very well at all. Books do, games a little bit less, but I can play a game for 15 minutes at a time and still have a good time. I can't watch a movie for 15 minutes at a time and say that I'm getting the cinema experience, right? You really need to sit down and watch a movie. I don't have 2 free hours to do anything in my life. Like a block of 2 hours is just ultra rare for me right now. Like I'm taking a minute to make a video that's going to be like 20 minutes tops, right? So being able to let that go, that's really good. But if your shtick is doing sword videos and people stop watching the sword videos, what the hell do you do? I will point out, I've seen Metatron, who's known for doing sword videos and history videos, having like a video game channel. I was like, awesome. This guy's an intelligent guy. He does good analysis. Hey, he could probably do good in the gaming space. That's maybe a smart way to approach YouTube. Is like, if you see your channel on that slope, start investing in something else, right? Like I have the music only channel. And so that's going to be like my secondary investment for YouTube. And maybe it won't come to anything. I'm approaching 50 improvs, right? I've done 49 live improvisations on that channel. I'm going to do 50. I might turn this off and do number 50 right now. You can subscribe to that. It's youtube.com/@ZoolOnline. If you want to have some like ambient guitar background music or ambient rock music, kind of live approach to the other music that I've done, that's what that is, right? Maybe good background writing music or something like that for you guys. As I approach that, I have like 130 subscribers, right? Very few people. These things can build, or, eventually maybe no one wants to watch that and I stop doing that and I try something different, right? Or maybe I do something that's not YouTube. Like I invest in the blog, or I invest in, some other form of thing for my business that can like cue into selling music or selling books. The harder thing to do is to just do something completely different. It's like, I have a programming job now and I just don't do any of that stuff. Like for me, that would be really hard because I'm a very creative person and everything I do is directed towards creativity. That's why it's hard to sit down and watch a movie. It's like, man, I should be working. If I have 2 hours, I need to be working, right? I need to not be like watching a movie that I probably am just not really interested in. Is not going to do that much for me. And that's how blockbuster movies have gone, is like they've just gotten like worse and worse over the last few years, to the point that I'm just really not interested in watching them. That's why I think Super Mario Bros. Was like so popular. It's like, this movie's not dog shit, A+. I'm like, well, I don't know about that. What are you comparing it to? It's like, it's a fun little kids movie, I guess. I'll probably say it's like a C, right? It does what it does pretty well. It's got a good little story. But I think people's standards are really low because entertainment has sucked so bad. Like Hollywood's been so bad at the blockbuster game the last couple of years. You really have to kind of step outside that to see anything that's interesting. And I don't have like 2 hours to just like gamble on that. Or if I watch a movie for 2 hours and then I do an analysis of it, is anyone going to watch that? Unless it's a blockbuster movie, it's like, 100 views. It's like, or I get, 800 views for like the non-blockbuster current thing. And then you do a review of a blockbuster and it's like thousands and thousands of views. You're like, oh, I guess I got to go see another Marvel movie. If you don't want to do that, and that's where I'm at. Like after Endgame, I was like, I don't want to go see another Marvel movie ever again. And it's not because Endgame was bad. It was just like, that's kind of like the end of all the Marvel stuff that they've done. And after this, it's just going to be kind of beating the dead horse, hoping it'll get up and gallop for you. And I get the impression that that's more or less been the performance of Marvel. People are like, you're stupid for saying Kevin Feige should retire. I'm like, you gotta, if you want to walk out on top. And I think that's like the thing that people should think about doing with YouTube is like, man, you want to step away when you're on top and not have to experience like the downward slide where like you're getting rewarded less and less and have to deal with that. You like look for the next thing. Like, what's the thing I'm going to do next that's going to be interesting? And so when you kind of get that feeling in the air, like, I'm not really enjoying this as much. It's not as fun as it was. It's not as rewarding as it was. Let's find something else that has that better balance between like rewards and process fun, and find something else to do. So yeah, that's my thought on like people quitting YouTube. Is I really get it. I think it comes down to like what I said in the article. Working for robots is very demoralizing. It's unpredictable. It's the unpredictability is the big thing. Is you it's not direct or predictable. It's like showing up to, imagine showing up to work and you just kind of have to guess what work your boss wants you to do, and he'll pay you based on whether you did the work that he imagined you should do that day. You have to go in and be like, okay, what kind of work do people maybe want me to do? Well, the other day they wanted me to chop wood, so maybe I'll chop wood today. And then the robot boss is like, I didn't really want you to chop wood very much today. I wanted you to do some other stuff. Well, what was it? It was what Cindy did. What did Cindy do? Cindy put on makeup and danced. Oh, well, okay, I'll put on makeup and dance tomorrow. Do that tomorrow. It's like, we already saw that from Cindy. We're not really interested in seeing that again. Okay, I guess I'll chop some more wood. We've chopped enough wood. You have to think of something else to do. That's what it's like working at YouTube. It's like you have to come up with lots of ideas and hope that they go viral, and sometimes they won't, and that's just how it is. So I can get why people get really exhausted from that. And especially if you are relying on that, trying to make that into like a steady income, it can be very difficult to keep your morale up through all of that, especially when that backslide, the slide happens. Once you start to get into the decay, the growth, and then you get old, like a channel gets old. It's like a living thing. It's born, it grows old. It's born, it grows up, grows old, grow and decay. It's only forever. All right, guys, leave me your thoughts down below for this little chat. I'd be happy to read them and see what's going on in people's minds about YouTube. Has YouTube changed? I feel like YouTube has changed a lot from when I really used to enjoy watching YouTube. It's harder for me than ever to find things that I'm really cued into listening to or watching on YouTube. And I don't know if that's just my relationship with YouTube, or it's like, creators getting kicked off of YouTube, but it's what it is. So let me know, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great one. Make sure you're on my mailing list, dvspress.com/free-book. You'll get a free book for joining it. And you can join my Patreon, patreon.com/davidvstewart, ko-fi.com. It should be all linked down in the description box if you want to support me that way. You do get books for being on my Patreon, right? It's like a book club at the very least, plus membership in the Discord and that kind of stuff. So have a great one, and I'll see you all next time.